as someone who is a parent and has kids, and I always think about, what's the most important thing I can tell my own children? I think the most important thing, it's not one thing that you tell kids, but it's a process of how you teach children. And I think first and foremost, the key is not to lie to children. Children are, from a very early age, are incredibly capable of dealing with reality. We ignore that. I think many of us, ageism is one of these isms that we don't pay very much attention to, but it's an important one. And sometimes it works against older folks. It's a weird ism, right? Because ageism, unlike other isms which tend to only operate in one direction systemically, ageism's sort of weird. Like, older folks know when they're trying to find jobs right now in this economy, it can be incredibly hard. If you're over 50, there's a lot of discrimination against older folks. So that's a form of ageism. But young people know that ageism is totally deployed against you too. So it's a weird thing, right? It works both ways. And with young people, we tend to sell them short. I think we tend to assume that young people are just not capable of handling the truth, or they just can't deal with discussions about oppression. And what I've actually found to be the case with my own kids and other kids is that they're amazingly capable of dealing with reality. And in fact, they see it, but they aren't given a space to discuss it. So when I've gone in, I've done talks with 5th graders, right? These are 10-year-old kids, right? And it's hard, right? Because you can't just get up and give the talk I gave to y'all. 10-year-olds would be like, oh shit, let me out of here, this is awful. Even my own kids at 10 would have been like, Dad, that's way too much. But what's interesting is, with a 10-year-old kid, I'll go in and I'll talk to kids that age, and I'll say, hey, you tell me, I'm not gonna tell you anything. You tell me, where do we get our ideas about the racial other, or the religious other, or the economic other, or whatever it is? And these kids who were 10, I just ask them the question. I don't tell them anything. I just ask them, and then they're incredible. They're able to, they can riff on that for a half an hour. They can raise their hand, they'll be like, oh, well, this is what we learned. And I say, where'd you learn that? And they'll be like, oh, from family, or from friends, or from the media. 10-year-old, 11-year-old kids, right? Incredibly savvy about media, because they're getting bombarded with it, right? They're getting images thrown at them all the time, and they're actually really good at sifting through it and realizing what's bullshit. We don't give them credit for that, but they're really good at it if we encourage that, if we're actually willing to sit down. I remember sitting down with my kid, my oldest daughter, who's now 14, when she was 5, and watching Pocahontas, right? Which is the most awful movie in the Disney canon. Other than Jungle Book, Pocahontas is the worst, right? And I didn't even want her to watch it, but she begged, and I'm a dad, and I'm like, okay. So we watched it, but I pulled out my notepad, I'm writing shit. I'm like, oh yeah.